So bear with me, I'm going to tell you a little story. You may be familiar with this from a popular TV show. Atop the Lazarus Laboratories building, Richard Lazarus, who has just rejuvenated his aging body through a new scientific process, quotes T.S. Eliot's poem, The Hollow Men, to an unknowing captive. It's tricked her into going up to the roof with him. The doctor, who as usual has just arrived just in time, finishes the line of poetry. "I would have thought you didn't have time for poetry, Lazarus," said the doctor. "What with you being busy defying the laws of nature and all?" Lazarus says, "You're right, doctor. One lifetime's been too short for me to do everything I'd like. How much more I'll get done in 3 or 4? "You're right. It doesn't work like that," replies the doctor. "Some people live more in 20 years than others do in 80. It's not the time that matters, it's the person." This week, my wife gave birth to a new baby daughter, and as I held her in my arms, I wondered what it would mean for her to live her life, to live deep and suck the marrow out of life. Thorough. There are 3 things I would tell her and you about how to live life. The first is that to truly live means to live authentically, to live your life. To quote again from Walden, Thoreau, "If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away." Now, I wouldn't have you mistake my or Thoreau's meaning. Authenticity, living your life, does not mean merely finding your own path or marching to your own drummer or, heaven forbid, thinking outside the box. The kind of authenticity I mean is a type of honesty. It is integrity to the beliefs, principles, values, and dreams that you hold dear. It is being honest with yourself and being honest with others about those dreams and principles. And most of all, it is acting in accordance with those principles. It means to live your life and to live your life on the right terms. This leads to the second thing that I would tell my daughter and you today as you commence this new stage of life. To live authentically in any meaningful or real sense requires you to live with an awareness of all that is around you. That is, to live with an awareness of the whole. That's the second thing. Thoreau does not admonish us that we wildly beat upon our own drum and march to whatever chaotic rhythm is produced. Rather, he seems to tell us to listen carefully, remember the quote, to seek the true music that most people miss and to march to that beat. True authenticity can only take place with an awareness of higher things, the bigger issues, and the more real part of life. It requires that we live contemplatively, to know thyself, probably a term you're familiar with. As you commence this next stage of life, I would have you remember that for the ancients, the phrase know thyself was not an admonition to navel-gazing or focusing on self. It meant to deeply understand what it means to be a human being among other human beings, and to understand your place in the whole, or in the universe, or in the world, or however you may phrase it, if you will. Likewise, Socrates, the most famous phrase of Socrates, perhaps, is that the unexamined life is not worth living, something we're probably all familiar with. But his was not a cloistered life or a selfish seeking of truth. He also regarded it as a great gain when he could become useful to his friends. That's Xenophon. An awareness of those around you or of your community, of the whole, allows you to make a difference in the world. And to you, to your friends, your family, your country, your neighbors, those you love and care about. And that's the third thing I would have you and my new baby daughter know. I do have proof that she's, see, I still have my bracelet on. The third thing is make the best and deepest mark you can on the world. As the poet William Blake put it, great things are done when men and mountains meet. This not done by jostling in the street. Blake was right, but often the mountains we climb are really molehills of unexamined opinions. The kind of mountains we are discussing aren't as easy to see or find as those that surround the valley we're in right now. You must seek them out through study, contemplation, and further education. You've already done a great job to this point. You must have an understanding to leave your mark, a deep, lasting mark on the world. Education, the very accomplishment we're here to celebrate today, and that you may wish or be glad is over, is not over. It's a lifelong pursuit. The proverb rightly says, with all thy getting, get understanding. But to be of use to your friends, you must prepare. You must prepare yourself, you must prepare your mind, your soul. One of my favorite examples of this is, again, from Socrates, and I will tell you this, what I find to be a highly amusing story, and you will as well. Socrates is said to have had a particular fondness for a youth named Glaucon. And he was less than 20 years old, and none of his friends or relations could keep him from going up and trying to become the head of the city. And he would get food and probably tomatoes thrown at him. He would be dragged from the rostrum. Please don't do that to me. So Socrates took it upon himself to go and speak to Glaucon and to teach him. And he said, once on meeting him, he stopped him and contrived to engage his attention, saying, Glaucon, you have made up your mind to be the chief man in our state? I have, Socrates, he said. Well, upon my word, there's no more honorable ambition in the world. For obviously, if you gain your object, you will be able to get whatever you want, and you will have the means of helping your friends. There it is again. And you will lift up your father's house and exalt your fatherland, and you will make a name for yourself. First at home, later on in Greece, and possibly like Themistocles, in foreign lands as well. Wherever you go, you will be a man of mark. Leave his mark on the world. When Glaucon heard this, he felt proud and gladly lingered and talked with Socrates. Next, Socrates asked, well, Glaucon, as you want to win honor, is it not obvious that you must benefit your city? Most certainly, says Glaucon. Pray, don't be reticent then. Tell us how you propose to begin your services to the state. Glaucon remained dumb, apparently considering for the first time how to begin. Socrates said, well, if you wanted to add to a friend's fortune, you said about making him richer, right? Will you try then to make your city richer? Certainly. Would you not be richer if you had a larger revenue? Now tell me. Oh, yes, presumably. Now tell me, are the sources of the city's revenues at the present derived, and how are they derived, and what is their total? No doubt you've gone into this matter. I haven't gone into that, says Glaucon. Well, if you've left that out, tell us the expenditures of the city. Fact is, I haven't had time for that yet either. Oh, then we will postpone the business of making the city richer, for how is it possible to look after income and expenditure without knowing what they are? Well, Socrates, we can make our enemies contribute after we conquer them. Oh, great, says Socrates. So then you know, I presume, how to advise the city on whom to fight, so that you may recommend her to go to war, if we're stronger than the enemy, but if weaker, we may persuade her to be aware. You are right. First then, tell us the naval military strength of our city, and then of that of our enemies. Well, no, of course I can't tell you off the top of my head, Glaucon says. Well, if you have made notes, go and fetch them. I should greatly like to hear it. Well, I haven't made any notes yet either, says Glaucon. Then he asked him about the garrisons. Similar. I don't really know how many garrisons we have surrounding the city. Then we'll postpone making advice on this issue as well. To be sure, Socrates says, you do know something about the city. And Glaucon says, well, I figure once I become the ruler of the city, I'll find out. Socrates says, well, but you know that no one will ever manage even his own household successfully unless he knows all its needs and sees that they are all supplied. Seeing that our city contains more than 10,000 houses, and it is difficult to look after so many families at once, you must have tried to make a start by doing something for one. I mean, your uncle's. It needs it, and if you succeed with that one, you can set to work on a larger number. Get into it, the punchline, here we go. But if you can't do anything for one, how are you going to succeed with many? If a man can't carry one talent, it's absurd for him to try to carry more than one, isn't it? Well, I could do something for Uncle's household, if only he would listen to me. What? You can't even persuade your uncle, and yet you suppose you will be able to persuade all of the Athenians, including your uncle, to listen to you? Pray, take care, Glaucon, that that your daring ambition doesn't lead to a fall. Don't you see how risky it is to say or do what you don't understand? Think of others whom you know to be the sort of men who say and do what they obviously don't understand. Do you think they get praise or blame by it? You will find, I take it, that the men who are famous and admired always come from those who have the widest knowledge, and the infamous and despised the most ignorant. Try to get a thorough knowledge of what you propose to do, whatever it is in your life, whatever your authentic living your life is. Become educated on that. Become thoughtful and contemplative about how you live and your place in the world. And when that happens, as Socrates says to Glaucon, I should not be surprised if you gain the object of your ambition quite easily. This brings us back to Richard Lazarus, and does tie in, and the hollow men of Eliot's poem. Lazarus was a scientific genius, you all know who've seen the show. And he lacked, however, an awareness of the whole. He lacked what it meant to be a human being among other human beings. He was, in a sense, hollow. In 4 lifetimes, if he could have achieved that, he never would have really lived his life. As you move on in your life from here, you have great opportunities ahead of you. Educate yourself. Live authentically. Live your life. And be aware of all that makes up this, what we call being human. Most of all, live. Congratulations. I look forward to seeing what you are able to do in your lives. Thank you.